Welcome back to Remarks with Republicans, the show where we talk with leaders, candidates, and conservative voices shaping the future of Illinois. Today we're joined by Tom Devore, attorney, constitutional advocate, and a familiar name to many Illinois voters. Known for taking on major legal battles and speaking out on a government accountability, Tom brings a unique perspective to today's conversation. So let's dive on in. Remarks with Republicans is starting right now. You became one of the most recognizable grassroots voices in Illinois. What first motivated you to step into that role?
You know, when COVID came around in 2020 in the spring, and the governor started issuing executive orders trying to get businesses shut down, kids to wear masks at school, etc., I quickly realized that there weren't a lot of Republicans fighting back against those COVID mandates. So once I saw that, that's what got me interested, and I started trying to help people.
For viewers who may not fully understand the term, what does grassroots movement actually mean to you?
You know, the grassroots movement to me is the everyday people in the electorate. They're not a part of the political class. They're not a part of the donor class. You know, they're just people that are working for a living. They want things to be better. They're not, intricately involved in the political structure. To me, that's what grassroots people are.
Do you believe Illinois politics has shifted in recent years because of grassroots activism?
Yes, I think especially in the last 5 years, I think grassroots activism has become more prevalent. I think social media is giving people a bigger platform in order to express themselves. And so I think the grassroots activism is actually putting a lot of pressure on what I would consider the Republican political class to start doing things a little differently.
You've been involved in several high-profile legal challenges. What role do you believe the courts play in protecting constitutional rights?
You know, the courts typically don't like getting involved in those types of issues, but, sometimes they don't have a choice. And I think when you bring those legal challenges into the courtroom, the court has to make sure that the three branches of government are operating independently in the way they should. And I think when courts see the executive branch of government, like Governor Pritzker was doing during COVID, exceeding their authority under the Constitution, they will step in, and they did on a few occasions.
What do you think is the most misunderstood constitutional issue in Illinois right now?
As far as which one's most misunderstood in Illinois, I think it has to do with the importance of the legislature. Many times the legislative branch of government, it kind of gets overshadowed by the executive branch. You have the governor, trying to wield a lot of power that he probably shouldn't be wielding. And I think that people understanding that the legislature, which is the people's branch of government, has the ability to be a check and balance on that executive power. And I'd like to see people understanding that better.
When you take a controversial legal fights, how do you handle criticism?
The criticism doesn't bother me that much, because anytime you're going to take a position on something, you're going to have criticism, and so I grew up in a poor family. I didn't come into something of wealth or anything, so I've been used to criticism my whole life, and so it doesn't bother me too much. People can say what they want. It's not going to deter me from representing people, doing what I think's right.
Many Illinois families feel frustrated with the direction of the state. What do you think needs to change most urgently?
People need to vote more often. I think that the people that want change have to realize that their vote is more influential than sometimes they believe. I travel the state quite a bit, and a lot of people don't vote because they think their vote doesn't matter. And if people want things to change, if they voted more consistently, they would elect better people, and once those better people get elected, things can change. But until people realize that there's a lot of power in their voting and they vote more consistently, we'll have a hard time getting things done.
What role should everyday citizens play in shaping policy?
They need to be informed. Everyday people, I know they have lives to live. They have a lot of things going on in their families, etc., but it's really important for them to understand what's going on in their government. Because once they understand, I believe people will make good choices if they take the time to really get into what's going on. Because if they don't pay attention and you just let elected officials do what they think they need to do, they'll usually make mistakes because, they need to be checked by the people. So everyday people need to pay more attention to what their government's doing.
Do you believe Illinois can turn around politically? If so, how?
Yes, I do, by more people voting. Let me give you an example. For those that don't want Governor Pritzker to continue to be the governor of the state of Illinois, they think there needs to be a change. Governor Pritzker in 2022, when he won his election, he got 2.25 million votes in Illinois. In November of 24 last year, the Republican vote for President Trump was 2.45 million votes. So there's 200,000 more Republican voters in 24 than there were in 22 that Pritzker got. There's enough votes, enough Republican votes in Illinois for us to win. They just have to turn out more consistently.
You built a strong following. What do you think resonates most with grassroots conservatives?
Honesty. They just want to be told what's really going on. What the grassroots are starting to appreciate, and I think I've played a small part in that. Some people would say a bigger part, but I'm going to say small part, is that the political class, when I'm talking at the state level, they rely upon the fact that the grassroots don't really have all the information. They want to control the narrative that the grassroots gets because that keeps them elected in office. And so I think what I've been trying to do is to give them information about what really is going on, because a lot of the things that I explain on social media are things that are told to me by people involved in the political process, but they don't have the courage or the desire to put that information out there themselves. And that's what I do. And when people become informed, they can make very powerful decisions. They just need to know.
What advice would you give someone who feels politically frustrated but doesn't know where to start?
I would tell them that wherever they live, they need to do what they can to help get more people in their communities to vote. It doesn't matter if you live in this county or in Hancock or in Adams or in any of the area, there are tens of thousands of people that just don't vote. And so if people are frustrated, what they need to look to do is how do they improve the number of people that are going to vote in their communities. And if we do that collectively across the state, we can change things. But if ultimately we don't vote, there's not a lot we can do.
What advice would you give young conservatives who want to defend constitutional purposes or principles?
A couple of things I would tell them. One, they have to have courage, because the younger generation your age, it's, being a conservative, constitutionally principled person, you can run into resistance. Don't let that deter you, right? You need to spend time and understand what's going on, like educate yourself about what's really happening in politics. And then you have to go find people that think like you and believe like you and get them involved as well.
If a middle school or high school student wants to become constitutional lawyer someday, what's the first step?
Study hard, right? If you want to deal with constitutional law, you just spend a lot of time understanding the law, study it. You can read books about it. You can take online seminars and really focus on learning how to think critically. Because to be a lawyer, it's really about how do you think critically and how do you analyze information to make decisions. So if you develop your critical thinking skills, you'll go a long way in being ready to go to law school.
Coffee or energy drink?
Energy drinks.
Early bird or night owl?
Both.
Favorite founding father?
Thomas Jefferson.
Most influential Supreme Court case?
Supreme Court case, Marbury v. Madison.
One word to describe Illinois politics?
One word?
Yeah.
A disaster.
One word to describe America?
Beautiful.
First job you ever had?
Pizza Hut.
Most important constitutional amendment?
Second Amendment.
Book every conservative should read?
How to Kill a Mockingbird.
If you were in law, what would you be doing?
And I was an accountant before I became a lawyer, so probably be an accountant.
Most misunderstood issue in Illinois.
The fact that Republicans can't win because of Chicago. Chicago doesn't keep us from winning. That's misunderstood.
And final one, advice in one sentence to the next generation.
Got to be courageous and stand up for what you believe in.
Thanks for speaking with me.
You're welcome.